in reference to the automated license plate recognition software that we're looking at implementing at the Monterey Police Department. My name is Lieutenant Gabe Castor. With me here is Chief Dave Hober and Assistant Chief Mike Bruno. We're going to do a presentation for you today in reference to the ALPR. Some of you may have already seen some of it. We went to council on November 21st, and we did a presentation for them on the 21st, and a lot of this same information is in there. But we would like to start over and start fresh with some of the folks that maybe haven't been able to see that presentation. So we will get started here. Okay, so the purpose of our ALPR town meeting, MPD is going to provide information related to the ALPRs and why MPD believes this would be an important investigative tool. We're going to obtain input and feedback from the public related to an ALPR system in Monterey. That's why all you folks are here. So we want to hear from you and get your opinions, and any questions that you have, we'll be more than happy to try and answer them. We also have a representative from, did he get on? From Flock? We also have a representative from one of the companies. His name is Hector. He's from Flock, which is the ALPR system that all the other folks in the area are using. So if we have any technical questions that the chief or Flock, I can't answer, we're going to go to Hector and see if he's got the answers to those questions. And we will get started with our presentation here. So let's see, what is an ALPR system? An ALPR system, defined by the California Civil Code, is a system, searchable computerized database resulting from the operation of one or more mobile or fixed cameras combined with computer algorithms to read and convert images of registration plates and the characters they contain into computer readable data. What does that mean to us? What that means to us is we're looking at two different systems here. It's all one, but there's two different pieces to it. The fixed ALPR system, which is the ALPR cameras that are at fixed locations throughout the city. That's the first section of it. And that section records license plates as people drive by those cameras. The second aspect of it is the mobile ALPR system. And all of our police cars right now have a video system in them. It goes along with our body cameras. And whenever we make contact in the public, those cameras go on and we record any interaction that we have with folks in the public. Those cameras that are in our cars have the ability to scan plates as we're driving around the city and conducting our patrols. So all we have to do is basically flip a switch to turn that on once that system is in place to get the car to scan those plates as we're driving. So those are the two different systems. The fixed ALPR cameras that are at the intersections and some of the other busy areas of the city, so we can collect that information if there's a crime that's committed in one of those locations, or we know that a vehicle is traveling in that direction and we don't have very much information on that vehicle. We can see the license plate and make and model of that vehicle as it passes by those fixed ALPR points. And like I said, the second part is the ALPRs in the cameras, which are scanning. So just please remember that this is an alert system and a pointer system. Both of them are an alert system and a pointer system, meaning if we're conducting an investigation, we have very little information on a vehicle that was involved in a shooting or some sort of violent crime. We have a generic description of a vehicle. We can put that into the ALPR system, and if that vehicle passed one of the cameras at the intersection, it will alert us that it passed that camera at the intersection. We can pick up that license plate, and that is just an investigative lead for us. That doesn't mean we go in and take action with that vehicle on that plate immediately. It means we now have a lead, which is the pointer system, to show us this car matches the description, leaving that area. Now we conduct our thorough investigation and are able to act on that plate if it's part of the crime. And the mobile aspect of it is it's scanning and looking at plates as we're driving. So if a stolen vehicle comes out of Santa Cruz and that vehicle passes us and that plate has been put into the stolen vehicle system, it will alert the officer that, oh, that stolen vehicle just passed, and we need to go and verify that information. Once we verify that information through either dispatch or another computer database, then we can take action on that plate. And remember, That is a very important part of this, is we don't just take action from something that was told to us by an ALPR system. We verify the information, we conduct a thorough investigation, and then we act on it after that. So the benefits of an ALPR system. ALPR will assist the MPD in locating vehicles that have been used in criminal activity or are part of a crime. So we're looking at apprehending those involved in crime, recovering stolen property, and deterring crime in the future. ALPR both records plates and alerts on plates, kind of the way I just described. And while so if we think about it, there are a lot of times in briefing where we are given plates from different cities and different counties and of stolen vehicles. Well, it's pretty hard to remember. If you have 4 or 5 of them, it's pretty hard to remember all of them. That's where the computer will assist us. The computer remembers those plates because they're put into the stolen vehicle system or another database. That information is taken from those databases, and the ALPR alerts on that plate or that information of the vehicle that was involved in that crime. This really helps the police out as that pointer system and as that alert saying, hey, that vehicle with that plate was potentially involved in this crime. Then we look at it and we can take action from there. The alerts notify the officer of a vehicle on a hot list, and that hot list is just what I described. It's coming from the stolen vehicle system or from another system that an officer has put that information into their system, which would go over to our ALPR system and then alert us on that plate that's in front of me. That's a stolen vehicle, potentially. So now what I would do is I would contact dispatch and I would say, hey, this is the car that I'm behind. They would run the plate for me and say, yeah, that is stolen out of Seaside. And this is the description of the vehicle, and I can match all those things up, and then I can take action on that vehicle. So ALPR technology assists in solving and deterring crime. So what is it for us? It's a force multiplier. So it's another tool in our toolbox. We like to take every tool that we can out into the public to be able to assist people and to be able to make arrests and deter crime. So there's 3 sections to this. It's proactive. It provides real-time alerts when stolen or wanted vehicles enter Monterey. So if there's a stolen vehicle that's driving down Del Monte from Seaside and passes English, and we have a ALPR fixed camera sitting out there, it's going to alert and tell us that stolen vehicle just passed that location. That's very important information for us because we would not have known any other way. So there's no way for us to know that unless the system tells us. Investigative. So the ALPR records plates of vehicles in Monterey leading to investigative leads after a crime has occurred to assist in solving crimes. Kind of what I explained a few minutes ago. If a vehicle is involved in a crime, whether it's a vehicle plate or just a description of that vehicle, we can put that into the system and we can locate where that vehicle was, where it's going, and gain that investigative lead. I will describe some scenarios and some success stories here in a few minutes of how this system really works for the other cities that have it. So that's one of the other pieces is the investigative and the deterrence. The presence of and publication that there is an ALPR system will act as a deterrent. If I'm going to steal a vehicle and I know that Monterey Police Department has 35 cameras in 32 locations throughout the city, I know that I'm going to be on camera somewhere, and I'm probably going to choose not to come steal that car in the city of Monterey. Along with the mall, we've had numerous issues up at the mall where people go in and they steal $50,000 worth of product from a specific store. They jump in their car and they get out of there and they know they can get on the freeway going up real quick, hop on the freeway, and they're gone back to wherever they came from. Well, if that comes out of the mall and we have a camera there, now we can pick up a description of that vehicle. If that vehicle's got a stolen plate on it or it's cold plated, it's got a different plate on it, we still have a description of that vehicle. So now we go into our investigative process and we start to build those leads. It's a excellent tool for us to use. So some of the other cities in Monterey County that are utilizing the ALPR system, we have a list up on the screen right here: Carmel by the Sea, Pacific Grove, Salinas, Sand City, Seaside, and Marina just got on board with their ALPR system just recently. So those are all the areas in our county where the ALPR systems are already in place. So let's talk about some success stories here. This is the meat and potatoes of it. This is why we want to implement this sort of technology. So I'm going to walk through numerous scenarios for you and explain to you why we think that this is very important technology. So there was an attempted murder in South County. The South County agency put the information from that vehicle into their ALPR system hot list. The ALPR in Seaside gave an alert, and the officers went to that location, verified all of the information. That suspect was taken into custody and arrested. Nobody else was injured. It was a shooting down in South County. In Seaside as well, just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, there was an armed robbery. So 4 armed suspects robbed a man at gunpoint as he walked on the sidewalk in Seaside. Seaside PD used the ALPR to identify the suspect's vehicle. This lead led to the identification and arrest of 2 of the 4 suspects, and they're still working that investigation to try and find out who the other 2 are. But that was a great case. There was another one where Seaside officers were dispatched to a shooting that was in their city. Witnesses gave officers a description of the vehicle involved in the shooting, and the vehicle description was put into their ALPR system. Salinas PD received an alert. They responded to that location and arrested the suspect and located the gun that was involved in that shooting. A gun taken off the street and a violent person taken off the street as well. The system worked really, really well. So make sure I'm on the same slide up there. Let's move over to Salinas PD. So Salinas PD, there were 2 murder suspects that were identified. Salinas PD responded to a victim found in her vehicle who suffered a gunshot wound. The victim later died. ALPR was used to determine the victim's location just before the homicide. As they watched the video of the victim's vehicle, they found another vehicle that was following her. They used that lead, and the detectives identified the suspect in that murder case. In a second case, Salinas PD detectives used a description of a vehicle to obtain ALPR data that led to the identity of another killer. So these are cases that are being solved because of ALPR. Not a whole lot of information, not a great description of vehicles. They're given very generic information. You put that into the ALPR system, and you're able to locate some of those vehicles and make some of these arrests. So there was a home invasion robbery in Salinas. 3 armed suspects committed a home invasion robbery. There were no cameras in the area and very few leads for this case. Salinas PD detectives used their ALPR to identify vehicles leaving the area of the crime around the time that it occurred. Those leads led to the identification and arrest of the suspects. On a different type of case, Salinas PD detectives were investigating a sexual assault of a victim who had been drugged. She knew who the suspect was. She had given them the suspect information, but they just could not locate the suspect. They put that information into their system, found where the route the suspect was taking to work every day, and made the arrest on that suspect for that sexual assault case. So just another way to be able to use the information that they're collecting from the ALPR systems to follow up, gain those leads, and make those arrests. Let's move over to Pacific Grove. So in Pacific Grove, 3 suspects with guns attacked the victim at Lover's Point. PGPD used the ALPR system to identify the vehicles that the suspects left in. The ALPR led to the arrest of 2 of the 3 suspects. And using the ALPR system in PGPD was in a pursuit with a vehicle that drove into Monterey's jurisdiction as well. They were driving very recklessly with disregard for all the other folks on the road, and they were able to identify through their ALPR system the vehicle that was involved in the pursuit that was in Pacific Grove and Monterey. It's pretty hard to see some of these plates when cars are driving very erratically, and we're kind of trying to keep up with them at times, and we're trying to see a plate. The plates are kind of small, especially when people are trying to drive away from you and get away and driving very erratic. But this technology allowed them to get that plate for that vehicle. So what goes along with the ALPR system? For the police department, there are a lot of state legislative mandates that go along with public agencies that operate ALPR systems. These are the rules we have to follow. And these rules are in place for a reason. There's 5 bullets up here. I know they're a little bit hard to see on the slideshow, but I'll explain them to you. So the first 2, they're about implementing policies and procedures that are created to ensure privacy and civil liberties are protected. This is very important to the police department. It's very important to the people that have these ALPR systems. And we have a draft policy that is on our Have Your Say Monterey webpage that people can go look at. And you can see that all of these things are written on there in that policy, and all of them are addressed. The first two also define the reasonable security procedures when working with ALPR data. This is something that is very important, and the California, the state legislature has mandated these things. These are all in our policy. They've all been referenced in that policy. The last two discuss the operators and the info that they're going to be accessing. So part of it is they're only used for an authorized purpose. That goes without saying. The only time we will be able to use an ALPR system is for an authorized purpose. And how it's going to work basically is I'm going to have my own username and my own password. Nobody else is going to have my username or my password. And when I go into the system, it's going to log that Gabe Castor just logged into the system on this date at this time. If I go to search for a plate because there was a crime that was committed and I think it's going to be on one of the fixed ALPR systems, I will go into that system, and you have to have a reason why you're doing it. So typically it's going to be a case number. Depending on what it is, it might be a reason for investigation, but you have to have a reason why you're doing it. And all of this information is documented in the system. So we can do an audit at a later date and find out why people are searching the system and what information they're collecting from the system. But the users need to know that when I put my name and password in there, the audit log is going to say my name on this date and this time, and this is why I access the system. All of these safeguards are in place to protect people's civil privacy and civil liberties. So when we talk about putting together an ALPR system, we have to train our folks. Every new system or every new piece of equipment that we get comes along with specific training to that new piece of equipment or that new system. This will be exactly the same as every other system that we've ever trained on. So when we do the training for the officers and the folks that are going to use this system, we're going to go through the legal requirements, just like we did just right now, the privacy concerns, which we will discuss, the policy mandates. So we'll go through the entire policy with everybody during the training, and they will have to be signed off on this training before they can use any of the ALPR system. And each access would include a user's unique identifier, like I spoke about a second ago. It's going to be my unique identifier with my password. And they're going to be trained that whenever they go in there, there's a box that says the reason for use. And you have to go in and you have to fill out that reason for use. Again, probably going to be a case number. And they're only allowed to access the ALPR information for authorized purposes. That goes without saying. I spoke about audits, so there will be an audit of the system to ensure the data is being used in accordance with department policies and the law. And during officers training, we will explain to them that there will be audits done, and we will be looking at why officers are going in and using that technology. So kind of like at the beginning of the slideshow here, we talked a little bit about what the technology is. So let's go through it. What is this technology? It's license plate recognition. It gathers objective evidence and facts about vehicles, not people. It alerts the police of wanted vehicles, like we spoke about. It's used to solve crimes, like the fixed ALPRs. When we think a vehicle might have passed that fixed ALPR in the commission of a crime, we can use it for that purpose. And it adheres to all state and legal mandates, which is in our policy. What isn't this tech? It's not facial recognition. It's not tied to personal identifying information. It's not used for traffic enforcement, and the data is not stored beyond 30 days. It automatically deletes every 30 days unless that vehicle is flagged for an investigative purpose. So all of the vehicles that are just driving to work in the morning and driving home at the end of the day that are captured on ALPR, in 30 days, they're going to be deleted from the system and you can't bring them back. They're gone forever. I did a little research on different timeframes in which people are keeping this information. And if you look throughout the state, it goes from 30 days at the lowest to some places are keeping it for 9 months. Well, we feel that 30 days is an appropriate time to keep people's privacy and their civil rights and their civil liberties, and we will not keep them past 30 days. It will delete all that information once that 30 days is up. So what does ALPR provide? We have a picture. That's what it provides. It provides the license plate of a vehicle. It also provides the make and the color of that vehicle. These cameras, the fixed cameras, are placed on a pedestal or a pole approximately 10 to 12 feet up in the air. So they're coming down at an angle, and they're coming down at an angle at the roadway. So that's the only way that it's collecting information. So what the ALPR camera does is it takes the photo, the computer algorithms read and convert the images. It provides the vehicle details and a license plate. It is indiscriminate evidence from fixed locations. There's no people, no facial recognitions, and no traffic enforcement. The only time a person may have a picture if, I guess, their head is out the window of the vehicle or they're walking through the intersection where the picture is being taken. I guess those are the only situations where someone's picture might be taken for the ALPR, from the ALPR. And all footage is searchable by vehicle attributes for 30 days, and then they're deleted, just like we spoke about a second ago. So that's the picture that you're getting when an ALPR takes a picture of a car that's driving by one of the fixed locations. So I know this one is a little bit difficult to see, but we have proposed locations. We've looked at the map of the city, and we think that 35 cameras in 32 strategic locations will cover all entry and exit from into the city and back out of the city. It's important to have cameras within the city as well, for instance, at the south side of the tunnel or at the north side of the tunnel, because once the vehicle gets into the city, who knows where it's going? It's almost impossible to know. You know that it's on Del Monte when it passed the camera at Del Monte in English, but where did it go from there? I don't know. But once it passes the next camera, now we have a direction of travel for us to work with. So it's very important to have those inside the city as well as outside of the city. There was a case in Seaside where somebody had stolen a motorcycle, and the motorcycle was alerting at all of these different ALPR cameras because it's just flying through the city doing its thing when it's a stolen vehicle. There would be no way to know where it's going to go if you just have one fixed location and it went into the city, but where it went from there, I don't know. So it's very important to have other cameras throughout the city. And I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but we just wanted to show folks that optimally, we think it's important to have all of ingress and egress covered and then some different areas throughout the city. And the mobile ALPR system, that's kind of what we spoke about earlier with our patrol vehicles. We have Axon cameras. All of our body cameras are Axon cameras, and those are the same cameras that are in our vehicles. It's called the Axon Fleet system, the Fleet 3 system. And there are recorders in our vehicles that we already have there, and they have the capability and the functionality of an ALPR system if we turn that system on. So it could be activated to work in conjunction with the fixed ALPR system. So all of the evidence goes into the same location. I also wanted to bring to folks' attention something that occurred yesterday. There was a stolen vehicle out of Santa Cruz yesterday. That stolen vehicle's location alerted Pacific Grove Police Department that stolen vehicle from Santa Cruz is driving through their city. They were able to tell us that it had gone through their city, and the last time they saw it, it was coming into Monterey. So they were able to give us that information over the radio. Our officers responded to that location, verified all the information. They were able to locate the vehicle, arrest the 2 suspects that were inside it, and get the vehicle back to the owner. That happened yesterday. A very timely, I guess, incident that occurred one day ago before we have our town hall meeting in reference to the ALPR system that really helped us take 2 people into custody and get a stolen vehicle back to the victim. Another instance occurred this morning. I can't talk too much about it because it's an ongoing investigation, but there was a shooting in Salinas. That vehicle was put into their ALPR system, and some folks were taken into custody from that case as well. That happened this morning. So these things are happening all over the place. These cases can be solved if we get active leads, which this, again, is just a pointer system to give us leads to continue our investigation and to follow up with further information. And then we make whatever decision we make on acting on the vehicle or whatever it is, with the information that we've created through our investigation. So it's just a pointer system. We have to verify all this information through dispatch or through other systems before we'll act on it. But then our officers have the opportunity to act on that stolen vehicle or victim that was involved in a crime or whatever the case may be. So that is the end of our slideshow presentation. We're going to open it up to public comment and any questions that folks might have. So whoever wants to come up, if we want to just start a line on this side, so it's an organized line of who wants to come up and speak, please feel free.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Well, so it's being filmed and then it will actually go on, and you might, before we start this, talk about Have Your Say Monterey on all the things that are on that, and also that people can comment there.
Sure.
So we're going to put it on the webpage so people can view this if they weren't able to see it today.
So we created a Have Your Say Monterey webpage. If you go on to the Have Your Say Monterey first page, there's projects, and under one of the projects, it says automated license plate readers. So that's our project. If you click on that, it's going to give you a little synopsis of why we think what ALPRs are, what the system does, why we think it's very important. There's a bunch of documents in there. There's our policy in there. That map is in there of the projected locations that we think are important. There is a video from the city council meeting that we had, and any email information that we've been given from folks, we put it all on there. We also have little flyers for this town hall meeting and then the town hall meeting that we're going to have on the 8th. You can go in there and you can look at, type in a comment, and we see all those comments. And it's a great place to share information and look at our policy and look at how we feel about ALPRs. So, but yes, that is out there. So it's at Have Your Say Monterey, and then you look up automated license plate readers.
And can we just confirm that Hector's available for any calls?
Yes.
Okay.
I am here.
And I see Jean Rash is up first, and I know she had a specific question about encryption, but maybe after the people ask questions, we might direct them to Hector.
Sure, absolutely.
And for those who are here in person, it would be helpful to note that this town hall meeting is being live streamed and on Zoom. So if you'd prefer not to be filmed, you can always share your thoughts electronically or separately. But this is a public meeting, and we are live streaming.
All righty, please.
I think actually.
I'm presuming this is pretty casual, maybe answers. Okay, so do you know why Menlo Park decided not to use automated license?
No idea.
Okay, all right. And Salinas is using Flock, and they're using the audio with it. Could anybody comment on that? And they say they're looking for firecrackers, but I guess they can also hear gunshots.
So it's my understanding, not only Salinas, but I also believe Seaside, that there's some new technologies through Flock, and Hector might be able to answer this better than me, that has some technology to be able to figure out where gunshots are coming from. And in Salinas, they had some other technology that was able to do that. It's probably 10 or 15-year-old technology where when gunshots go off, they can hear that and they can then send officers into that area. That's not something we're contemplating in Monterey. We're just contemplating the ALPR cameras.
Right?
Yep, that's exactly correct. And Salinas does not have Flock's Raven technology, which is for gunshot detection, as you mentioned, Chief.
Thank you.
He's saying they do not.
So Flock has, because I think it's a marketing thing, but Flock, different cameras are named like different birds. And so that's what he was the one he's talking about for this gunshot aspect has that specific name but he's saying that Salinas does not have it right now. There was another technology called Shot Spotter that's been around for a long time. I think they have that in Salinas.
It was in one of the local papers that they were using it, but yeah. Who will be on the audit committee?
So it's not necessarily a committee. It's an audit that will be done by the ALPR coordinator, which will be a lieutenant that works for the police department that will annually audit at a minimum 10 different aspects of it and then send a report to me every year.
Would you consider having the attorney, the city attorney on that, in that process, just for,
Well, that's certainly something that I would consider with, I'm not going to say that, yes, we'll do that or no, but certainly, if, so it sounds like you're suggesting if I got that report that we send a copy to the city attorney as well. Is that?
or that she be involved in the review so that she's actually looking at the process from a legal and a civil rights perspective, and that she would have hands-on as close to a parallel position within the city hierarchy as you. So you're, I think that's something to think about.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And it's, we would think about that, but I have no issue with having the city attorney look at things, but, as far, just to expand on that a little bit, our current policy, the city attorney's office has reviewed, we work hand in hand with city attorneys. So there's something that certainly we could do. When you say we're there, where she's right there, I think more, it would probably be something more along the lines of when the audit comes, that we present that to her and show it to her, if that's what we decide that we want to do, but
Right.
certainly
Right.
open to suggestions.
Right. And that's what tonight and next time will be. And I would love to see her actually sitting there looking at the information rather than just getting your report is what would make me feel a little bit better. Of course, I am an attorney, so.
But, and honestly, thinking about that, she's so busy that I can't imagine her sitting there watching
She's
the
real
lieutenant
busy.
go through all that stuff,
Well,
but certainly open to
maybe.
it.
Maybe. What else here? Oh, on the deletion, the 30-day deletion, is that the backup to the cloud as well?
Hector.
Yeah.
you answer that?
So each one of the images that are captured have what is called a time to live stamp, at which point they are hard deleted and no longer retrievable. So they're deleted completely from the cloud at that point.
Great.
They're not your department nor anyone else can see those images.
And
Thank you.
Hector, Jean had previously asked me about the encryption. Can you just explain that a little bit too?
Yeah, so all of the images are encrypted end to end. It's 256-bit encryption. We use Amazon Web Server's government cloud, so it's the highest level of security available.
Great. Thank you. And I'm sure that people have questions. Thank you for all the work you're doing with Cielo Vista neighborhood,
Oh,
Gabe.
absolutely.
So I was on that initial phone call.
Oh,
So it's nice to see you face to face, and thank you for all that great work. We
My
really-
pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you, Jean. Jean and I were just in another meeting before this one, and she was singing Gabe's praises about how much she appreciates all that you've done. Come on up.
Hello. Yeah, I do some freelance journalism. I've been looking into the system, and what I've read that it's primarily for is for the new 15-minute city
I-
complex that's coming.
I don't understand.
15-minute cities.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, it's implemented in many cities in the USA now, Ann Arbor, Michigan, some places in Kentucky, Oxford, England, Cambridgeshire, England. And it's a program where you can only go 15 minutes outside your city. I think it's 250 days a year. So the rest of the time, you can't go 16 minutes from your city. So that's what I've read that it's for, because you are now the criminal. If you go 16 minutes out of your city on day 201, there's the fine.
Well, I'm not sure I quite understand, but it sounds like if I understand you correctly,
I'll read it to you.
okay.
It's already implemented in,
Well, I can just tell you that we're not going to find anybody for not being in the city or for being
Not yet.
since out of this.
not yet. In Oxford, 15-minute city and how many days per year you can leave your zone. Residents of Oxford are permitted to leave their 15-minute city zone a maximum of 100 times per year. Yes, this is true. But they must first register their car and have it tracked by smart cameras. So that's one concern that I have, because I believe the cameras are for the criminals, but the criminals will be you and I if we go 201 days, 16 minutes outside our city. And this is fact. It's not conspiracy.
Okay, what
So what? And I know I'm not a criminal, but I know two ways you can cover your license plate: cling film and frosted spray.
Mhm.
So what are the digital, the license plates now, or
I don't, so this
you
is,
don't know about 15 minutes it is?
would you like me to answer?
Yeah, but you said you don't know. It's very important.
Okay, what, if you'd like me,
Everybody here.
if you'd like me to answer, I can't answer if you keep interrupting me.
Okay, I understand.
So if you'd like me to answer, I'll try to do that. So I hadn't heard about 15-minute cities before this. I've never heard of that before. We're not going to do that in Monterey. That is not the plan. That is not what we're talking about here. So that's all that
That's
I
not
can
something
present
you're
to
in
you.
charge of. That's
Okay, well, that's not the plan at this point, and
But it's the
nor
plan
is
for
it in
the
the
world.
future. Okay,
it's the plan for the world.
okay. Was there other comments or questions you had?
Well, how can you safeguard us from not being used for that, for us, wanting to go on day 201, 16 minutes outside of our zone?
Well, I guess what I would tell you that is that as a chief of police, I'm not going to do that. As somebody who lives in this community, I wouldn't allow that to happen.
Mainframe, right? He is.
Well, I don't know in charge of the mainframe, but okay, I understand.
It doesn't go to you. It's going to,
Great. I understand what you're saying. Was there anything else you had a question about?
no, but it would be nice if you'd, say, I'll look into it, or I don't know about it, but I'll certainly have a look. And
How about
see it's a
this?
concern for the population.
Sure.
We're going to be tracked in our 15 minutes.
I will
Sure,
tell you
at the end of
this,
the year.
that will not happen while I live in this community. It's not going to happen.
Well, you should read about,
I will.
World Economic Forum and the net zero agenda and why it's being implemented is, for the net zero campaign. And it
Okay.
is going to happen. It is happening. It's happening right now. So,
All right.
the future is everyone else will follow. So that's very worrisome. I'm sure for some people who maybe work
Sure.
16 minutes away or have relatives 16 minutes away, you are the new criminal. You are going to be fined for going 16 minutes outside your house. The cameras are for you, because criminals have a way to cover their license plates. They're smart.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
We appreciate that. Next, does somebody else have questions, comments?
Evening. My name is John Sovereign. I'm a resident of Monterey. Thank you, Chief and officers, for your, tireless work to protect us and keep the city safe. I think that the, acronym Advanced License Plate Reader is kind of a soft sell. If it's really a vehicle identification system, as I understand it. And I think it'd just be easier to say it's a 21st century surveillance system. And I would only say that there is the opportunity in the future for this to be used for a different purpose, right? And I think to protect us from that, two things. One, perhaps this should be an ordinance, not just department policy. And second, maybe it's time for sort of 21st century governance. Perhaps there should be an oversight board. I know that's a heavy-handed thing, but that's my only other suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mean an oversight board for the automated license plate reader system?
For whatever you want to call this system, yes.
Okay, and I mean, I don't disagree. It certainly is a surveillance of license plates and vehicles. I guess the question is, what then is that used for? Which is why the legislature has mandated specific aspects and with the ordinance is not just the ordinance, but state legislation as well. But I absolutely understand what you're saying. I think it's kind of akin to what Gene was saying with the city attorney being involved. So I appreciate that
Yeah,
point.
I think it's similar concern or a similar approach to, provide as much transparency and openness. These systems are not perfect.
Agreed.
Face ID confuses me with my father.
Right.
It happens.
All right.
You.
Thank you, sir. And I'd rather this was just a conversation, but we're trying to capture this so that if other people want to see, that's why we have people coming up because they can't hear if we're not on their microphone. So Esther.
Yes, Esther Malkin. I have not had a problem with this. I've very few people I've spoken to in my neighborhood and in surrounding neighborhoods have had a problem with it. On the contrary, everybody wants it. I live on the border of Seaside and Monterey, and I can tell you that years ago, we were having all kinds of problems with theft gangs coming over the border, and they would come to my neighborhood and scoot over through the park and go back to Seaside. And, those are ways that we can track them all the way through. If somebody commits a crime in PG and they make their way all the way to Seaside, there isn't that gap. So every city can pick up where the last one left off. As far as privacy concerns, anybody in here have a cell phone? Anybody use a computer or a laptop, iPad? Have, location, GPS in your car? All of that. You're being tracked. I personally take the location services off my cell phone because I want to limit the tracking, but that doesn't eliminate it completely. So if somebody's really concerned of going off the grid, they would have to put their device in a Faraday cage, which is a pouch that would completely lock down any potential signals coming in or out of it. So I think it's unrealistic for people to think that they're not being tracked already somehow. And frankly, whoever doesn't have anything to worry about probably doesn't have a problem with this. I mean, everybody's always complaining about the police department not doing certain things. This would actually help them do the things that we want them to do for us. So I understand that there are probably some civil liberties concerns, but I have complete trust in our police department to not do anything that they're not supposed to do. Our police department has never proven themselves to do anything like other police departments in the country. And I've never been one to throw them in the same bucket as others. So I don't see anybody having a problem with it that I've spoken to that's a long-term resident. I don't even have a problem if they know that I'm coming and going for my work, every day, an hour away or however long, 5 days a week. I don't have a problem with that. So just saying.
Thank you, Esther. Lee.
Good evening. I'm Lee Whitney from the Glenwood neighborhood. There's been a lot of talk about rights and privacy. What about the rights of those that want to be safe? Doesn't that mean anything anymore? Look at the good this program does and the lives it saved, the perpetrators that have been apprehended. Crime rates are rising in every single city. That includes Carmel. And our protectors need all the help that they can get, whether it's information from us if we're witnessing something or if it's from another source. I know in Carmel, the cameras helped apprehend a guy that beat a 70-year-old lady in her driveway in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. They helped to apprehend that guy. We've had a couple of jewelry robberies. And of course, there's the art gallery robberies in Carmel, where I work. And these cameras have been helpful to us to apprehend get the license plate, we can put the alert out, and if they're headed to Seaside or Whitport Seaside, they've gotten nailed tonight, wherever they're headed, Santa Cruz, the law enforcement groups work together to help apprehend these guys and get them off the road. Privacy, we gave it away. We gave it away. Using computers, your cell phone, Facebook, Twitter, you gave away your own privacy. Nobody took it away from you. And so tonight I ask you to open your mind and try to understand how the program works. You need to listen and see both sides before making your decision. Don't let another group make you up your mind. Think for yourself. There's those that have a cause and all they want to do is not hear it. They want to have their cause and they want to be winning. With a so-and-so group won this, we want it. They hide behind it. It's not really what they care about. They don't care about the community. We are our community and we need to care about us and our citizens, the projects we do for NCIP and other things. The groups that are against, why aren't they teaching somebody to read? Why aren't they helping an old lady and such as myself or somebody blind? Why aren't they doing things in their community instead of doing their cause? You need to care about your community. We have rights with this also. We have the right to be safe. I strongly support this program that will help us keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Well, I hope all of you are doing better than my team is doing. But I do want to thank you, Lieutenant. Great presentation. Chief, good to see you again, and neighbors. I want to talk just a brief moment about public versus private. When I'm out on the street, I am no longer in a private location. I don't experience the public streets as being private. And people are worried about their privacy. I'm a child of the 60s, flowers in our hair, and we're very concerned about privacy. I know that technology can run amok, has run amok, will continue to run amok. In fact, I just recently saw when AI was first being created, AI began to talk to itself. And fortunately, the founders of that particular program shut it down before they couldn't get in there and shut it down. So yes, there is definitely that possibility that this camera system, as our freelance journalists brought to us information overseas and elsewhere, that there's these 15-minute communities. I've never heard of that, but I watch a lot of sci-fi and that is not too out in the outer space for that not to transpire. We've seen so much change in 50 or 60 years. We've shaken off the dust of the Industrial Revolution. We've moved into the technology world that we do not know how far it goes. But I know when I walk on these streets, I live close to the edge of Seaside as well. I live in I live in Monterey. I watch the news on occasion. I read the large print on the newspaper when I go by, and it kind of gives everybody an indication of what's happening. We saw many ugly things in riots in times past, recent times past, that have hurt our communities, hurt our hearts, hurt our souls, hurt individuals. So we're all worried about this privacy thing. We've seen mass demonstrations bust into our White House. We've seen our streets taken over, some with legitimate homeless issues, some that are bussed in to create havoc. We've seen facial recognition, voice recognition, license plate recognition. Every time you go through the Golden Gate Bridge, guess what happens? your license plate is photographed. In fact, I believe I saw my face in one of the pictures when I didn't pay it was only because my fast track didn't work. So I'm clear. There's no arrest warrants out. But another thing that we've seen that has tremendously impacted our communities, and that's the call for defunding the police department. That's a great idea. Send those guys out there without anything and ask them to protect us. Come on, we got to tweak that a little bit. And this is a tweaking that I see of giving our peacemakers an opportunity to work in our behalf. What this camera can see, what it can do to protect me and my life and those that I love is something that I really like. I want it to happen. I want to see our neighborhoods and our people and our communities thrive. If we were to ask 50 people on the street, I think one thing that if we're, hey, what's your biggest beef? I don't think they're going to say police. I think they might say economics, but they might say crime. And I think that's one thing that really touches all of us closely is crime. My oldest son, my best friend, was killed by a drunk driver. I thank God that we were able to identify who that was. I can't imagine the grief that I would continue to bear not knowing who that perpetrator was. In my opinion, we need this system in order to curb the rate of violence, to curb the rate of fear that is being created in our lives because of the amount of crime that's going on. We know about what happens in Seaside. We know about what happens in Monterey. We heard about what happens in Seaside. We know what happened in Carmel. If these cameras are able to save one person from getting raped, one person from having their kid killed, one old man from getting run over, one woman from being attacked, our children, I'd like to see our crosswalks at schools. I'd like to see some cameras there. We have a lot of reasons to believe in this system. There's certainly reasons to go, okay, a loss of privacy. No, when I'm in my car and I'm out on the streets, I'm no longer private. I'm out in the public. This is a public scene that we're talking about. I am not talking about your rights, or your rights. In the privacy of your home, do what you want. I simply don't care. But when you get out on those streets, there are too many people involved, and there are too many violent criminals out there that are very willing to kill you, maim you, hurt you, halt you, anything for a dime. One of my very closest friends was killed for a Twinkie. He went fishing up on the Stanislaus River. And you might remember the Love case. For 83 cents, he was killed. That was the money that they used to go buy their girlfriends some cotton candy or a Twinkie. This system, if it saves my other son, if it saves my neighbors, that makes sense. That matters. And I believe in this system. I believe more in our men in blue in Monterey than possibly I do someplace where somebody feels that they have the right to crush somebody's neck for 9 minutes on national television. I'm not into that. No one in here is. I'm saying yes to this system. I hope that you guys consider it carefully as you make your decisions, as you talk to your neighbors. I talked to one of my neighbors about it. I said, hey, what do you think about this? And he came from the prison, I think it's in Soledad, where he was there for 30 years. And he says, oh my God, if we can get that system, get it in here now, because we need it. He saw the violent criminals. We're all pretty separated and distant. We don't have to dive deep into what the men in blue see day in and day out, but we are affected by it. I believe these cameras are going to help us. I do have several questions, and one is hacks in the dark web. We're all concerned about the dark web. It's there, it's real, it tracks anything and everything it can get a hold of. How can the dark web use this? And that is a question that I can take later. I don't need the answer right now. Is it an add-on system? Are we going to be able to add on facial ID, gunshot identification? You know, is it just a simple computer click like the Tesla cars? If you want heat in your seat, you have to download the program to get it. I mentioned it, I'll mention it again, lack of funding, lack of manpower versus increase in crime. I say yes to the cameras. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. And Hector, if you're online, can you address the dark web? I don't know how we.
Yeah. So I can say the all of the data is stored is end-to-end encrypted in 256-bit encryption, which means it's the highest level of encryption available. It's sent to Amazon Web Servers government cloud. These are the same types of servers used by federal agencies such as the FBI and CIA because of their level of security. I think the other part of that question, though, is, is if something were to happen and it were to be hacked, how is this data secured, et cetera? So I've kind of addressed the fact that we're taking the utmost precautions to secure the data on the front end, but it's also important to talk about the fact that there's no personal identifiable information in the data that's captured. So it's only images of the back of vehicles and their license plates. We don't have any personal identifiable information within Flock. So that means there's nothing saying that car belongs to John Smith, et cetera. It is just that license plate, right? There's no DMV records or third-party databases. So that answers that first question. And I think there was a second question on, kind of what systems or, if they're, upgrading, et cetera. The only thing that's being discussed today are what is called the Flock Falcon cameras or the license plate reading cameras. Those cameras do not have the ability to be upgraded in any way to receive audio information. Any other audio detection type of devices would be a different device altogether. So, there's no switch that can be flipped on. That's something that would have to come in front of the community as well in the future. And then there's no facial recognition within Flock or any capabilities, that have to do with people as well. So also want to make sure that the public is aware of that.
Thank you, Hector. Other comments, concerns, questions? How about online, Nat?
We do have one hand raised, and we'll go ahead and let them speak and ask a question or provide comment. We've unmuted this individual.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. My name's Mibbs McCarthy, and I am here tonight because I'm representing the Monterey County chapter of the ACLU. We are dedicated to protecting civil rights and civil liberties, including the right to be free from intrusive, discriminatory, and dangerous government surveillance. We are strongly opposed to the proposed acquisition of ALPR systems in the city of Monterey. ALPR systems will make our community less, not more safe, because they violate privacy, facilitate dangerous police stops, and risk exposing our immigrant community members to harm. ALPR surveillance cameras automatically record the images of license plates, the vehicle's precise location, and at times even the photographs of the individuals inside the vehicles. ALPR cameras are often placed throughout a community, including on light poles, off overpasses, and patrol cars. Government agencies can and have used the location information collected by ALPR to deport immigrants and track people exercising their First Amendment rights. All people should feel safe to worship, to attend a protest, to go about their personal lives safely without unwarranted surveillance. But in communities with ALPR, there is often no way for a driver to avoid having their location captured by such a system, short of choosing not to drive. There are many examples of discriminatory use of ALPR systems leading to lawsuits. I'm sorry. leading to lawsuits against police departments, as well as being as it being a threat to the health and safety of all motorists. Finally, ALPR systems have not been meaningfully demonstrated to prevent crime or meaningfully improve public safety. We urge the City Council to reject this ALPR proposal, and we also encourage the City Council to adopt an ordinance prohibiting the future acquisition of ALPR by city departments, including the police. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Nat, is there anybody else on?
Yes, there is. And let's see here. We've got Lori Mazuka. Lori.
Good evening. I just want to say a couple of things. I am 100% for these cameras. I live in a neighborhood where through the NCIP, our neighborhood wants these cameras, voted it in, it was approved years ago, and we still don't have them. And so we believe in giving the police tools, and this is a very good tool. For some of the folks who have spoken saying that there's nothing that proves they help, I beg to differ. All you have to do is go online and do some searches, and there is data. I lived in the Bay Area before I moved here about 5 years ago. And it's funny because many of the things that happened up there, I'm seeing happen here across the board, including crime increase, which everyone thinks they're safe here. And, Monterey's just this tucked away little community. That's not the case anymore. I lived in Alameda, and there were 2 bridges that came in from Oakland, and people there fought these cameras for, the plate readers for privacy rights and all the other reasons. And let me tell you, after a number of years of vehicles, catalytic converters being taken, vehicles literally work trucks full of tools being towed away overnight in the middle of the night, people's whole livelihoods just disappearing over the bridge into Oakland. People came around to those license plate readers and they never looked back. So other communities across the state and the nation are putting them in finally. And, I just found a quick article. It was written in 2020. And I think the data is probably even greater than this, but just basic facts were that 18% of property crime gets solved, that less than 18%, because there just aren't enough leads for law enforcement to track down the evidence. So that if you can, any tool you can give the police to help and this is one of the good tools. It says in this article, nearly 70% of crime involves a vehicle. And maybe some of our police officers there can attest to that. And license plates are public information. So if you want to keep your community safe, you can use technology that identifies these vehicles, tracks the leads, and helps law enforcement capture just the evidence to solve a crime. I talked to a friend of mine today who lives in Big Sur in the middle of nowhere behind a locked gate. And she told me today that she had she and her husband's wallets were stolen. Like, they leave all this stuff in the car, unlocked cars, because they think they're safe. And everything disappeared, all her credit cards, everything gone. And she knows that they were in a vehicle because the next morning in Prunedale, they used her ATM card and they got away with a lot. And now they're going to install cameras. And I just think, wow, there would have been plate readers or somebody seeing what car was going in or out. They'd know what vehicle came into their property in the middle of nowhere. But my point is that no place is safe. Things go on, and the officers need help finding the bad guys. They're not going to come after us. I don't care if my trips to Trader Joe's are tracked. Like Esther Malkin said, they're tracked via my cell phone. So I'm okay with that. So I fully support this, and I hope the council votes for it. And if there's any ordinance, it's for more of these cameras across the city. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, and thanks for all you do to our Monterey Police Force.
Thank you very much.
And then we have a few question and answer comments on Zoom using the Q&A tool. The first one is from an anonymous attendee. You mentioned attributes of vehicle. Is a license plate number required to initiate a search of the camera records, or just color/model, for instance?
You can search by, there are numerous different ways you can search with some of these tools. The make, model, color, something very descriptive. If your truck has a very distinct rack in the back, that for work or for something like that, you can search by those types of things as well. So it's going to be license plate, make, model, color, and different specific attributes like specific distinct looking parts to that vehicle. So there are many different ways to search for vehicles. Yes.
Great.
But to that question, can you read the question again, Nat?
Sure. I'll go back to the question. You mentioned attributes of vehicle. Is a license plate number required to initiate a search of the camera records, or just color/model, for instance?
Yes, so that's what I thought. The back end of that question sounds to me like the question isn't so much about what the technology does, but more what is the requirement for police officers to search that information? So they have to follow the policy. And really the question is, if we have had a crime, if there was some sort of crime in the city of Monterey, and so these flock cameras were capturing that information, they can capture all of the things that Gabe just explained. However, for our investigators to look at that, they have to be investigating a crime. They have to follow the policy. They have to put the reason that they were looking this information up, and all of that can be audited. So there's standards by which they have to do it. So a police officer can't just look in there because they want to see what's going on for a non-official purpose. There has to be a reason, and then there's an audit trail that follows. Okay, Nat, if you could go to the next question.
Sure. Next one is a comment followed by a question from Suzanne. Here's a link to the conspiracy theory that has evolved from UK cities trying to reduce traffic in neighborhoods during peak commute times. The lady concerned about being fined for entering or leaving the city too often has swallowed the conspiracy Kool-Aid. And she includes a link to a Bloomberg article titled "The 15-Minute City Freakout is a Case Study in Conspiracy Paranoia." Far-right protesters in the UK claim that Oxford's traffic control plan is part of a global authoritarian plot. What the heck is going on?
Well, let me just say this. I mean, I don't want to denigrate anybody, and certainly everybody is. This great thing about being an American is you have a right to your opinion and your thoughts. So what she was saying, if I'm going to look at that, but I will tell you that that's not what we're looking at these cameras for. And I certainly want to hear what everybody has to say and their concerns. And I think that we need to address those concerns. And there's a lot of discussion tonight about privacy and following people. I'll tell you what, I don't want the government looking at where I'm going, but if they have a reason to look at something that matches my vehicle, there's a difference between us just doing this. And that's why we have this policy and why the California State Legislature has put things into place to ensure that the only time that government is looking at these things is if there is a specific official purpose. We've heard some comments about things where police departments have not done these things properly. And there's validity to that. But I will tell you that one of the reasons that I've waited a little while to bring this forward is I want to see what we can learn, and I want to do it right. And I think that sometimes if we're not the first ones to implement technology, it gives us that ability to do that. I will also tell you that the city of Monterey, the people that live here, our council, the city manager, and the police department all hold ourselves accountable to making sure that everything we are doing is to be professional and follow civil rights aspects and make sure that we're not doing anything that violates anybody's civil rights. And I don't want mine violated. And so all these things that have come up are good points. And I think that we need to be aware of those things. And I think that we're putting things in place here as mandated by the legislature that ensures that we do that things. I'll tell you also that this Mayor Breed in San Francisco on the 12th of January just is singing the praises of implementing 400 cameras in the city of San Francisco because of the crime issues that they're having there. And certainly San Francisco and Oakland and Berkeley, all of those are very progressive cities, and San Jose, that have looked at these and have implemented this technology. And while perhaps we've made mistakes before, and certainly there are things that can be pointed at where law enforcement has made mistakes, those cities and this city are going to do everything that we can to ensure that civil rights and policies are followed and in place so that those things don't happen here. And I live here, and I'm going to live here till the day I die. I love it here. And it's a balance. And I want to make sure that my civil liberties are protected, but I also want to make sure that we are protecting our community and assisting with crime issues. And I think this is a great technology to help us to do that. So, sorry, there's a question, and that gave me an opportunity to go on, and I
That was
apologize.
perfect. Thank you, Chief. Follow-up question from Suzanne. Are these cameras able to pick up people on the sidewalk or entering/leaving businesses and homes? If so, the crime prevention and apprehension possibilities of our police department could be greatly improved. I'm a supporter of this attempt to solve and prevent crimes. P.S. I'm a businesswoman and own commercial property in Monterey. I have offices and retail establishments that have been broken into.
So what we're contemplating here is not to pick up pictures of people. This is all to pick up pictures of vehicles, license plates, and the attributes of those vehicles. So it's not meant to see people coming or going from their homes. That's not the purpose. It's just vehicle. And as Gabe and others have described, it's not to find personally identifiable information or those kinds of things.
Great, thank you, Chief. And then last raised hand is from David Sutherland. We'll allow David to say a few words before we close up tonight.
Hi, yeah, I would like to echo the sentiments made by the representative of the ACLU. I invite everybody to visit stopalprs.com for more information on this encroaching infringement of our privacy rights. ALPRs are illegal dragnet surveillance. ALPRs are always on surveillance systems that collect and store information on everyone who drives. Far fewer than 1% of scanned cars are connected to any sort of wrongdoing, but ALPRs still store everybody's detailed travel history, sometimes indefinitely. This infringes on our Fourth Amendment privacy rights and breaks other laws that are supposed to protect us from police overreach. ALPRs don't reduce crime. In spite of well-orchestrated corporate media campaign by ALPR vendors, there's actually no conclusive evidence that ALPRs reduce crime. Instead of buying into unproven surveillance, we should invest in things like public health, high-quality education, and violence intervention programs. ALPRs are sold by private companies that profit off of fear. The companies that make ALPRs profit from the perceived threat of crime and have no business interest in ending it, because fear sells more devices. ALPR companies and their investors have no incentive to create products that actually address the root causes of crime, conflict, and violence. Police and agencies aren't held accountable for APLR use. Policies that govern the use of license plate readers are far from the norm. Even where they do exist, they are regularly ignored. Recently, an officer in Kansas was arrested for using flock safety to stalk an ex-wife. Other departments have shared driver data with agencies like the FBI, even when they said they wouldn't do it. On top of that, police and surveillance contractors don't keep our data safe. Hacks and data breaches have already exposed hundreds of thousands of driver records. ALPRs are machines that make dangerous mechanical mistakes. ALPRs misread license plate at disturbingly high rates. A police-run study in Vallejo, California found that up to 37% of ALPR hits were erroneous. Errors like these have led to police pulling over and detaining innocent people on many separate occasions. ALPRs harm our communities. Surveillance tools are overused on communities of color, leading to more arrests for low-level offenses and supercharging racist incarceration. Furthermore, Black, brown, and poor people are overrepresented on police hot lists. That means ALPRs will flag people who are already targeted by the police, even if the list is incorrect or out of date, like many hot lists are. I invite you again to visit stopalprs.com for information and citations on all the information I brought to you today. Thanks for letting my comment.
Thank you, David. Any other comments or people online, Nat?
Nope, that was the last one.
All right. Anything else from anybody else? Thank you. Thank you. So the question for those online is how soon can these be implemented? And actually, thank you for that. We're going to do another town hall meeting on February 8th, and then we kind of have a plan to bring this to council in March. And if council were to choose to approve this, then probably about 60 days. So I would guess if it's approved, hopefully by summertime. Other questions? You were hoping yesterday. No, just direction from council. There is state mandated legislation that we have to bring this before the governing body for public comment. And we decided we wanted to go a little further than that. So not only are we doing that, we did that the first time we were before council. We'll go before council twice on this issue. And this isn't obviously considered a governing body, but we're getting information here that council can review. And that's why we wanted to record this so they can review it as well.
There doesn't have to be an ordinance for it to go into effect.
There does not have to be, well, they are going to review the policy, but I don't think there has to be a specific ordinance that goes regarding ALPRs, no.
Because if there is that 60 days from.
Yes, but I don't believe there is. So there is, I'm for another topic for military equipment, there has to be an ordinance. But the only aspect for ALPRs is that we have to bring it before the council so they can review it. But they don't have to pass a specific ordinance that says whatever they want us to specifically do.
What's the cost and the maintenance?
So general ballpark for the 35 cameras in 32 locations that we are suggesting, it's an initial cost of about $135,000. And then the ongoing a year estimates or ongoing costs are about $100,000 for that number of cameras. And that's again, ballpark. So about $100,000 a year for the ongoing costs. All right. Well, not seeing any other questions. I thank you all very much for spending your quality time with us here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.